Hey everybody, it's EK from EK Gorm Designs, and I am sneaking in with another 5 fast cards featuring the My Guy Card Making Kit from White Rose Crafts. Now, if you haven't picked up one of these kits, I'm going to warn you there's only 5 left, just like the number of cards I'm creating today, and this is a sneak peek of the 5 cards we are creating. Let's pop right into card 1, where I am going to use a couple of the pieces of paper and this roll of mustache tape. In the unboxing, my first video got corroded and I had to reshoot the unboxing, and somewhere in all of that, this roll of tape disappeared onto my desk into the vast wasteland. I'm sure you understand. So in my first video and unboxing, you don't actually see the mustache tape, but today I want to make sure I use it because it is really cute and it coordinates so nicely with this Kaisercraft paper. I adhered the Kaisercraft paper to the card frame, and using some of the included scrapberry ink, I just kind of distressed the edges so that all the different pieces of paper would tie in together. I know they already tied in, being that they're from the same Kaisercraft collection, but regardless, I wanted to make certain they all had that kind of red-brown hue to it that this paper, or that this ink allows. So with my brush, I just kind of added a touch of it to each of the edges. For the main ephemera piece, I, instead of blending the ink on, actually ran the edges over the card and then started adhering everything together. So I put down first the washi tape. And it didn't initially stick well to where the ink is on the paper, but with a little hard scoring from my nail, I was able to actually get it down with no problem. Here's where I had a plan in mind, but hadn't seen it with the tape, and you see that my plan sort of changed on the fly because, yeah, I couldn't see the cute mustaches, and the whole point of using washi tape was to see the cute mustaches, so my wood grain piece of paper got flipped. I wanted this piece of ephemera to pop up a little bit and stand out more amongst its peers, so I put a little bit of foam dimensional squares under it. And there you go, there's the first card today, and I really like how that brown hue just ties everything in together. The second card is going to be one of the included decoupage sets, so I'm going to actually layer this up using 3-dimensional pieces. This is the Craft. Oh, I'm gonna have to search my brain. You would think I'd write everything down and have it in front of me, but I don't because I'm not that smart. This is the Craft Mr. Mr. I think it's Craft Mr. Mr. decoupage sets. Yeah, and you can see it's a punch out of all the different layers of it. And I got smarter, and instead of just using squares, I used whiter tape because sometimes I do have the ability to think beyond my own nose. And started layering everything up. It's super easy, makes a very cool card. Now, I will tell you, I don't put cards that have these kind of ephemera stack-ups in the mail just because they're really thick. But I do include them in, you know, gifts that I'm giving to somebody individually, or somebody might... Basically, when I don't have to use the mail, or if I'm shipping a whole package, I'll include this kind of card. I'm sure you can mail a card like this. I just think you're going to probably need to add extra postage. I apologize for I don't know why I left all this in and making you all watch me peel the backing of square foam tape. But I wanted to make sure you saw how easy this was and how thick and cool this built up. The cool thing about this particular piece is each of the tools have their own pop out, so you can actually make each of them pop up. But as you'll see in just a quick second, I didn't actually like how they looked stacked up next to each other. So I left a couple of them off and had plans for them in the second place. Here's where I pull it off and just kind of decide on this upper row to do every other one, as well as on the bottom row. But I like the fact that, like, I could leave this without the different pieces of tools on it and let the tools float around the image on the card, which in hindsight would probably have looked really, really cool. I do think this is a really cool set for the men in your life, because how many different guys, or possibly gals, do you know that are big tool gals? Like, It doesn't say dad, it doesn't say father, it just says Mr. Fix-It. So a grandpa, an uncle, a brother, even, you know, your aunt who likes to do tool work. I wanted to include some of this jelly bean craft string, so I've got it cut up, and I'm just kind of adhering it to the back of the blue metallic card, and I've looped in one of the wrench charms on it, so that way it's kind of got that bit of hardware and metal, making it even, I think more masculine. My video got a little corroded. It happens. So I'm jumping over, but I did adhere down the piece of paper from the Do Craft Mr. kit. And I like the way it looks like it's actually a news thing. I realized, because I don't plan real well, I needed the wrench to go a whole lot lower. So this time I adhered on the pop-up and then pulled out a glue dot to adhere down the wrench so it actually had a nice form. And like I said, because I had these little extra tools, I was able to place them around the focal image, which I think ended up looking really cool. And there we go. There's the second of our 5 fast cards today. This one wasn't so fast, but you could see where it would be if you weren't having to pull all the backs off of the foam squares. For the third card, I actually wanted to keep it really simple but do some light stamping. So I took a piece of the Kaiser Craft paper, trimmed it up, and inked it up on the sides just to give it a grungier feel. And yes, I run out of tape glue and have to pull a new one out. It happens. The same thing that I did to the piece of paper, I did to the card frame, inking up the edges. And then I decided to stamp my sentiment. Oh wait, no, I haven't stamped my sentiment. I'm going to do some background stamping onto the printed paper using the big gear die and the included ink. I like that it's not clear or precision clear, but more just kind of an illusion of the image. And I like the color ink. It breaks up the blue. I knew I wanted to use the car here, and it's a really cool little image of a car. But I also knew that I didn't want to stamp it in brown, so I pulled up my black ink, inked up the image really well, and pushed it down. Now, I haven't used this on video yet, but I realized in the trend of using something to help smooth out your stamping, I had a dry erase marker laying around from my dry erase board, and it is the perfect tool for me to help get a smoother image when using my stamping platform. I stamped out the dictionary definition of gentleman onto this scrap of Kaiser Craft paper from the kit. I'd used the main square of it in the first video I made, but used the scraps here just to stamp out the element. And I just like that it says gentleman, and it kind of gives a classic look to it. I adhered it off center, and that's it for card 3. Some simple stamping, but also kind of a perfect card for a guy. The fourth card is a mess. Just trust me on this one. I, again, didn't have a plan, and I should have. Oh, I should have. I very much should have cut the piece of focal paper back to a much smaller size. In the end, the card looks great, but because I didn't have a plan, and I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, it's a mess. I did some stamping onto the card frame with the Woodware stamp set. This is the Gone Fishing stamp set that's included in the kit. And I used the boots and the bait for, you know, your fishermen. And I actually have 2 fishermen in my house. My son and my husband both go out regularly together to attempt to catch things. They're not always successful, but they have a good time trying. You can see where the problem is. I wish I'd trimmed down that piece of Kaiser Craft paper. I added the little fishing boat. It's not ephemera. Oh, brain farts are wonderful. I added the little piece of jewel to the thing and I realized the card was a mess and I had no direction. So onto a scrap piece of good cardstock, I stamped out the boots and the bait box and then pulled out my Nuvo craft pins and colored in the image. I'm not doing any fancy coloring. I'm just trying to use some bright colors to help that would go really nicely with the copper metallic scrap I used. As you can see, there's nothing fancy about this coloring. But I'm hoping the color helps ground all the different looks of this card. And it did. It really, really did in the end. But like I said, it was just a giant mess. And I'm not crazy about having a mess. So, yeah. Anybody who's been around with me for a long time knows that coloring is what started me in card making. The ability to sit and color and create little pieces of art with ink. So it's always nice when I get a chance to go back to my roots, and I love this woodware stamp step because it allows for coloring. I fussy cut out the images and adhered them to the bottom of the paper, letting the boots overlap a little bit, and you can see how that bit of color really grounded out the rest of the image. For the last card, I'm doing a super simple card. I've trimmed up 2 pieces of paper, one to fit a whole card frame, one just to be a little bit of ephemera. And then I took one of the ephemera sheets from the Kaisercraft paper that's a great sentiment and simply added it to the card. I legitimately could have left it just here because the paper is so great. When you have great paper, you don't need to do a lot to it. And this is great paper, but I love the sentiment. It's not the men in my life, but the life in my men. I figured I could add just a little bit more to the image, so I pulled out one of the charms, and it seems to be the only vehicle missing from the paper, the boat, so I thought it was perfect. And I just, with my glossy accents, glued it down onto the card. And that's it for the 5th card. Super simple, but also a really cool card, I think. Anyway, that's my 5 fast cards today. If you missed the original 5 fast cards, I will link it up here so you can jump back and let me know in the comments below which of the 5 cards is your favorite. Until then, happy crafting.